Morning. This is going to be a demo on how to do curb drops slash ledge drops. You can see here the curb I've chosen is not all that tall. It's not as tall as your board, so it's not really a drop. You're just going to roll off of it. This is a good way to build your confidence. It's also a good place to do curb nudges that we can go up and down. So obviously start at the lowest point. You can just roll up, roll down. It's not really a drop. Get confident with that. I'm guessing if you're trying to learn actual drops, you've probably already done this. So you build it up to a higher point and then do the same thing. Now, since it's not a skateboard, you can take advantage of the motor physics. You don't have to roll straight off. You can cheat, use the motor to slowly roll you off. You might even be able to hear my motor grunt as it tries to hold up my svelte 152 pounds and a board. So get a little comfortable with that. Then, of course, increase your speed. And this is where it becomes relevant to actual drops that are higher than your board, because you're going to start to get a feeling for the sensation of the way your board reacts as it loses traction and comes back. Because we were dealing with an electronic board again. Sometimes it helps us, sometimes it hurts. Here it does a little bit of both. So you are going to have to deal with the board feeling your foot come off the sensor possibly. It's in some modes you're going to feel tail drop. I'm doing it in delirium because delirium is made for single trap. They're expecting you to go over roots and have traction issues, and it's going to accommodate for that. The old mission, a pre-Andromeda update, the tail would drop. I'd run off and it would kind of like drag the tail, especially if you go off a drop that's higher than the height of your board. So that's annoying for you folks that have a successfully installed Andromeda. You're enjoying that because it doesn't do that anymore. So I'll roll off. It almost seems a little front heavy sometimes, and this isn't the best curb. It'd be nice to have a little bit of a run up, but I can still get quite a bit of speed. You can kind of see it went a little nose heavy there. But what you're going to get used to is that sensation of it dropping. And sometimes your front foot comes off the board, sometimes the back. So, I mean, obviously, if I felt my nose coming off or going a little nose heavy, next time I'm going to lean back, which I did. Makes it a little more comfortable. Zoom in, carry a lot of speed, lean back. That's another good point, is that you want to lean back as you're coming off a drop. If you notice people in their videos, all their failed attempts, they never fall backwards. You're always falling forwards. Most people don't lean back far enough. That's another reason why they built that tail drag into the old mission. I'm sure it was intentional, because it's safer to have the tail drag than a nose drop. So, see, I'm doing several of these. If you've done a few, you're confident. It's time to move on to a bigger curb. But you can kind of get a sense here for the way the board reacts. It's something I always say. It seems simplistic, it seems cliche, but it's really quite profound. And that is trust the board. Trust the board. It's a self-balancing board. You're going to do everything you can to make the board do less work. But when you call upon it, it has a 1 horsepower motor, especially if you're a lighter person. The board is going to try to right you if you help it out. And what I mean by that is don't go stiff-legged, give it a little absorption. If you know you're coming off a ledge, be prepared. So you're going to be ready to absorb with your feet, give it a little bit of a gentle drop. And I see people, they try to do a curb drop or ledge drop, and they run off all stiff-legged, and your front foot will come too far off the board. You'll get loose, you'll fall, always forward again. But if you trust the board and relax, and remember, you're still jumping off of something. If I saw you run and just jump off the edge of a picnic table seat, you're going to bend your legs. But if you're not doing it on a one wheel, why? You're gonna be ready. So you are jumping. So give it a little bit of a absorption, and the higher the drop, the more that's going to be important. You're going to want to not give the board a signal to shut off. You're going to want to just kind of give it a good squish, absorb it. And I'm going to move to a taller curb so you can see it in action better. Looks easy, right? Not so easy as that other red curb that we were riding on yesterday. I recorded a section for tall curbs yesterday, but Movie Pro wasn't participating. It got deleted somehow. So you can see this curb is obviously much higher. Take a look. We're probably at least 8 inches. It goes almost to the top of the float plate if you're measuring right about just below your third bolt from the bottom. So this is much higher. Rolling over a curb like this, nice and slow, can work, but usually not. So you gently roll over. Yeah, it's a lot safer just to roll off of it. Now, a lot of my tricks I do are just for fun, just to see what can be done with the board. This is a very practical trick. It's not even a trick. This is just dealing with terrain. This is going to be part of your toolbox all the time. You really don't want to have to do the get off your board, walk down the curb of shame. You want to just blaze it. Keep rolling with style. And so it looks a little something like this. Now, pay attention to not the board. It's not really going to tell you a whole lot. Look at the way my knees, my shoulders, everything's prepared for this drop. Look at my speed. Gently roll off. Tail didn't touch the back. And the first few times you do this, your tail's probably going to touch your back. And that's going to be a combination of two factors. One is not enough speed. That's primary. And secondarily, it would be that you're staying too stiff-legged. So as you roll off, you're kind of pushing down and you hit the tail on the way over. Like I always say, trust the board. If you hit the tail, it's not the end of the world. You're probably still going to land it if you trust the board and at least have some softness to your legs. But optimally, as we roll off, I'm kind of giving it a little bit of a pseudo jump as you come off. That way, you're just gliding off the end. You're not pushing back into the ground actively. Gravity's gonna do it. You don't have any choice about that. But you do have a choice about how much push you put into your legs. And look at my speed. I'm not going that fast, and the tail's not hitting the ground or the ledge. Another thing you'll notice is, you know what? Fuck it. I'm leaving that in. So another thing you're going to notice is that my front foot does leave the board. Not always, but usually front foot comes off a little bit. That's just the nature of rolling off of a curb like this. And again, trust the board. It's going to feel a little funky. If you feel your front foot coming off, you're going to want to jump off, bail. Trust the board. Now, when I recorded this yesterday, the software didn't retain the file for some reason. I was doing this off of a curb about this high onto grass. And I went into a little bit of pontification about why. I'll do an abbreviated version of that here. I'm doing it on concrete because I've done this. I've been comfortable with it. When I learned it, I did it on grass. There are disadvantages to both. The disadvantage to this is rolling on your arm, your wrist, scratching up your pretty board. The penalty for falling off is higher. Now, the advantage to this is you're always going to land on a nice smooth surface. The board's going to feel more stable as you roll. Grass can be bumpy, and not only that, but grass does give, which is a good thing when you're falling on it with your flesh, but when you're hitting it with your wheel, especially on the higher the drop and the softer the grass, it's actually going to squish a little bit as the wheel hits. That could apply some resistance. That could throw you forward if you're not ready for it. So if this is your first time, try to find one that drops onto grass. So now you can see it. You got an idea of how this works. This is 60 frames a second. Hopefully you're watching it on a platform that will allow you to slow it down. I normally do this in delirium. I'm actually in elevated mode now, and that's just because I wanted to roll up the curb for the beginning of this video, and this curb is so tall that rolling up in delirium is challenging. You have to roll up fast, lift your nose, set it back down, and then go up. In elevated, that makes it easier. That's about the only time I ever ride elevated, is because I'm trying to clear something high or going up a hill. Just a quick tip about elevated. A lot of people are finding horrible battery life in elevated, and that's because you're trying to stay level when the board is trying to lift the nose. You're fighting the board. So if you're riding elevated, you want to ride more like front leg bent. When you stop in elevated, it levels the board, so you kind of have to watch me while I'm moving. But try to keep your foot bent, your front foot bent for whichever direction you're going, and that'll save battery life and just be a lot more comfortable riding in elevated. Riding for a length of time on elevated on a flat surface is not comfortable anyway. But we got off topic, but I hope you guys learned something about curb ledge drops. If you get it for the first time because you watch this video and help make it easier, let me know. I just enjoy hearing that people are learning stuff and these videos are of value. I know they're long, but I try to get really technical, more so than just, hey, watch me jump it. So enjoy, and if you have any requests, I'm happy to cut videos for any tricks that you might like to learn. And now a couple clips of other drops on various terrain.